Bear go wrong? I think that's a question worth asking ahead of its final season's premiere. And the only answer that comes to mind is they started believing their own bullshit. They started believing their own hype. They got high on their own supply. This is the last picture with Rahim Khan. And while I should definitely do more TV shows, reviews, and stuff like that, you guys know I don't binge. So it takes time to get round to these. And by the time I've actually seen the entire season or something like that, people have already done reviews and they've moved on, blah, 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 whatever, forget that. Okay, The Bear. The fifth and final season is coming to us. I think that's on June 25th. And for those of us who have stuck around for all this time, we know that I think around maybe midway season two or season three and season four, the show kind of lost its way. And while it was still a show that was sort of a critical darling. People kept on returning to it for obvious reasons because, again, they wanted to know where the story was going, of course. But then also, Christopher Storer, the creator of the show, and his team of writers, and of course the cast, every now and then over the past couple of years have been able to deliver stuff that I think is worthy of sort of prestige TV, you know? They've been able to deliver episodes, season arcs that I think will go down as some of the best that television has seen. Unfortunately, I think, and I remember even reading an article on this, but I mean, I'm putting my own 2 cents out there. I think they kind of started believing that what they were doing, or at least letting their worst habits take reign rather than what was making the show a success. I think that's where people started wondering, has this show run out of juice? Like, is this it? And I think nothing more exemplifies this than that recent 1 hour sort of what was it, like a movie, a one-off, a special, whatever, Gary, that starred, of course, Ibon Moss Bacharach and what's it called? What's his name? John Bernthal. And it was written by the two, directed, I believe, by Christopher Storer. And I think that episode was exactly what is wrong with The Bear. Let's go back a bit, of course. Let's go back to the first season. The first season was fantastic, let's be honest. It may be born off of the interest that shows like Chef's Table from Netflix brought to people. I mean, that intensity, but then also that interest and that love that comes with modern cuisine. I wouldn't even say that it's just limited to fine dining because, of course, when the Bears started, it was, they were just selling beef burgers, they were selling their sandwiches. But I think that there was enough public interest in sort of the mystique and the drama surrounding the culinary world that it came at a very good time, number one, but then also came with a very compelling story. Here we have Jeremy Allen White's character, Carmi, aka the Bear. Who I believe, is he a Michelin star chef? I'm not sure. But he comes back to his family owned, Italian beef sandwich shop. His brother, John Bernthal, has just committed suicide. And he now has to run this along with the likes of cousin Ibon Moss Bacharach, that guy, crazy person at least. And I love the story, the character arc that he has. Get to that in a second. But then also this other sort of motley crew of characters who don't know what to expect from him and vice versa. He doesn't know what to expect from them. I mean, sort of, it's a very sort of circumstantial arrangement, and yet he tries to make the most of it. And so, I mean, sort of scrappy Carmi and sort of the rest of the guys try to make some sense of this failing business that is beloved but still has gaping holes in its sort of books. And that was, I think, something that, sort of in my explanation, in my sort of gist of it, is enough to give any producer or any studio, or in this case, a network, reasons to give it a green light. I think it's a great idea, and you had very good writing, very interesting characters, very well written characters, great score, very well shot. And if you'll agree with me, hopefully, episode, what is that, 9 of the first season? Let me just quickly take that out. Or maybe there was the second to last episode. No, it was episode 7 of season 1. Yeah? Yeah, that's it. That's the season, that's the episode. In which, if you guys remember, they, sort of hook up their what's it called, their order system to like the internet or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember. And, because they do make a mean beef sandwich, orders start coming in, and they come in and they're literally inundated. And the stress and the anxiety in that episode that I feel with these guys being overwhelmed to the response to, like, their sandwiches, but then these orders just coming in and them being incapable, literally, it's like humanly impossible for them to sort of, like, put out that many orders. I've been there. Now, it's just a personal aside. I mean, sort of, I'm in a business where I am sort of, where orders, when they do come in, thick and fast, it's like, damn, you have to get this done, you have to get this done. And sort of, I had a visceral reaction to that episode. It almost reminded me of, that episode in Battlestar Galactica. What was that? 33, if I'm remembering it correctly, where sort of the Cylons are chasing them, and for some reason or the other, every 33 minutes, I think, they kind of find them, they suss them out. And sort of there is this pacing to the episode, this rhythm, and also this sort of dread, oh, they're going to find them, that I felt in this episode. And I was like, wow, man, this is a show that is inspired. Christopher Storer has, come up with something that, we haven't seen in a while in television. And hats off. That was, the first season. And it ends on such a great note where, at the end, they're trying to find out where he's squirreled away that $200,000, and they end up finding it in those in the tomato sauce cans. It was just a really, really good season. And barring, I would say, that stupid intro that they have where he has that sort of dream sequence where he sees that fiery bear, I thought that was very pretentious. Everything else in this was just great. And that's a word I would say you guys keep in mind as we go through this, because pretentious is something that has come to, I would say, at least in my books, come to explain all of the worst problems with this show, what it has now become. Season 2 was also pretty good because here they've now made this decision that, it was the bear. It was a sandwich shop. But now let's turn it into a place for Carmi to be sort of like, for him to be a house for his talents, right? Because he is a very accomplished chef. Throw in, what's it called, romance and an expanding cast of characters, and you can see where this is going, you know? I mean, don't tell me that you just didn't like or sort of really like tune in when Jeremy Allen White's character and Ebon Moss's character sort of really get into it and they start to butt heads. It's it's like I don't want to ever know such people or experience such levels of, I would say, stress and anxiety, but I mean sort of at a remove. this Brechtian remove, if you will. I get to watch it on TV, and it was amazing. And we got to see flashes of those. Like, of course, we can never forget the Christmas episode, right? Which was exactly what I just described, but amped up to the extreme. And while I know some people, there were some critics out there who were like, the whole reason, well, not one, the whole reason, but at least one of the reasons why the show kind of faltered or lost steam was because it was relying on these guest, what's it called, appearances. I don't think that was the reason. I'll get to the reason in a bit. So season two was good, but I think for me, I asked this question at the start: where did it go wrong? I will tell you when it went wrong. It went wrong. Remember, what was this, like second to last episode of season two, where Carmi locks himself in the freezer? I think that was like a turning point for the show, where I wanted to see a certain trajectory, but I didn't get that with the characters, with Carmi, because we get to see everybody else really grow. Like Richie, the other guy, what's his name? Yeah, Marcus, the pastry chef. The lady, Tina Morero, her, all of these guys, Ibrahim, was like, the dark horse of them all. All of these guys really got to grow as characters. And, like, for example, with Richie's character, we saw this wonderful character arc where he starts off as, let's just, like, second fiddle to John Bernthal's character, a screw up, to like now he is this maitre d' par excellence. And I really like that. I really like that growth in these characters. But Carmi is just stuck. And that was something I really didn't want to see. I had hoped that sort of him getting stuck there and screwing things up with his love interest. I'm forgetting her name. Yeah, I'm forgetting her name, whatever her name is. I thought really that, he would be able to get out of it. That realizing these sort of demons that his family has, and that's why he ran away, that he would be able to avoid them. But that's where, I mean, I think season three and four really got stuck. It got stuck in the weeds of, like, these internal sort of struggles. And while we saw kind of the bear as a restaurant also come to life and become something, I think it just really got stuck in that. And I didn't like that. I really wanted to see Carmi succeed. Of course, now we find his character at the end of season four, sort of hanging up his apron, or at least passing on the reins to Sydney's character, who, I'll be honest, I've never liked Sydney's character. I get that, he feels that he is perhaps the biggest, weakest, the weakest link, and it now needs a different kind of leadership. And of course, they're staring down the barrel of closure because that guy, Uncle, whatever his name is, um, and Computer, they've given them like a deadline that beyond this point, that's it. The business is going to fail. They're going to run out of money. There's no chance they can stay open. Okay, cool. And if you've seen the season five trailer, it feels like the entire season, or maybe just one episode of it, I don't know, happens while it's raining. I don't get that. The trailer was kind of a little off for me. Um, I don't know how many episodes are even slated for. Let's see, five. Sorry, eight. Eight episodes for the fifth and final season. That's fine. Okay, maybe that's one of the problems. But I think one thing that really got to me and really started to like stink was, that pretension that I'm talking about, where they kind of believed their own bullshit. In their interactions, I found them so like implausible. Like, there's that intense sort of stare that Jeremy Allen White has, with his eyes like almost popping out. And there he is, like talking to Sydney, and there's like, oh, you want to do this? Cut to her. cut to him, cut to this. It's just like this back and forth, right? And you get it. Shot, reaction, shot, sort of the bread and butter of cinema, very basic stuff of film, of TV making, of whatever. But like there was just something so unnatural, so affected in their interactions, pardon me, that was something that I really felt was kind of weighing this down. Whereas in the first season, even in the second season, there was a lot of the stuff that I felt was really like, because again, we were experiencing these characters, this style of writing, the tone for the first time. I think by the third or fourth season, it started to feel stale, almost like, sort of a one trick pony where, okay, guys, you've done this, what next? Like, it was just like, again, I'm trying to put my finger on just these again, I think the best word is this sort of affectation that made the dialogue and sort of the interaction between these people seem just like very contrived. Like this would not be how you would talk to another person in the real world. And similarly, I appreciate how Storer was experimenting with the form. I think it was season three's premiere. Was that the one? Let me just check that. In which essentially it was, yeah, that's it. It was the premiere of season three. The episode is tomorrow, in which it is a descent into depression and while superbly done, right? And that's what I'm saying. I really appreciate that these guys are kind of exploring what they can do with the media because you wouldn't normally be getting this you'd be definitely getting in film. You would not be getting it in television. Definitely not. But I really like that they were doing that. But then on the flip side, you would have similar episodes, right, that didn't work. Now, let me explain. Come on, plot details. Okay. Whereas it was just a special. The whole Gary special that they had is something that you would find in season three and four in a number of episodes. Like, for example, do you remember the wedding episode where they all get under the table to try and comfort Richie's daughter? It's just like, what are you guys doing? You know, it feels like so off, and that's exactly what like season the what's it called that Gary special was felt like. I get it. You're kind of it's a flashback episode, of course. John Bernthal and Richie and the brother Michael, is that his name? Yeah, they sort of go on an errand to Gary, Indiana, and it starts off like a like any other road trip where like okay, the guys are hanging out and stuff like that, they're getting up to no good, like sort of they're playing basketball with kids and then they end up at a bar, and that's where things take a turn where John Berntal's character, and I'm really fucking hating this person. I don't understand why everyone liked him so much. He just kind of like, loses his shit and turns on Richie, who is a nice guy, and ends up fucking things like, really badly. And I wonder to myself, I'm like, wait a second, is this the best possible use of your time? Maybe I would have liked instead of giving John Bernthal, who perhaps should not write shit, if you saw his recent The Punisher special, even that wasn't good. Maybe I would have liked to have seen a flashback, even though we've seen that in different what's it called, across the season so far of Carmi and that piece of shit chef. What's that guy's name? Played by the guy from Community. I'm forgetting his name, but like how that guy really did a number on him. I would have loved to have seen a flashback to that, like a special just on that. Instead, we get these two, like, near do wells, just honestly wasting an hour of our time. And that's where a lot of season 3 and 4 felt. It felt like it was like, sort of, pardon my French, it was like a circle jerk where I think the writers having been given like a green light that, you know what, this show is gold, do whatever you guys want. And so instead of, this is like a good analogy, but remember how on Lost they had that whole episode where it's, what is it, Kate and Josh Holloway's character, I'm forgetting his name. They're like stuck in that cage. And the reason they could, like, there were actual production reasons why they couldn't do anything else, but they just spent that entire episode there. That's what I felt like season 3 and 4 were like. They were just stuck in a rut. They had kind of painted themselves into a corner. They kind of believed that what we were doing, or sort of like, is exactly what people want. It's not. And so let's see where we can take this. And that's where I'm not saying that, they're calling it time with season 5, but maybe the show could have had a longer shelf life if maybe seasons 3 and 4 weren't as mixed. One thing I definitely didn't, I kind of missed about season 3 and 4 was the soundtrack really changed. Like I remember in season 1 and 2, I was always like on Tune Find. I was like, damn man, this is some very good music. Like in that pasta episode with Sydney when she's going around town. You have what was it? The Durutti, those guys with Future Perfect. What a great song that was. You had Van Morrison playing. You've not in that episode, in another one. Um, what else, man? There's just such good music. And yet I haven't been able to find anything distinct over the past 2 seasons. I don't think the guest stars have hampered this in any way. I don't like John Mulaney. I hate that guy. Him and that other lady who I think plays a cousin. I don't think they really added anything. I really like the addition of Will Poulter. I like him, and I think that he is there in season 5 going ahead. I really like the addition of the staff from that other restaurant. Those guys have added to it. And, just one thing in conclusion. Um, these guys just need to chill the fuck out. Like, food is 100% extremely important, right? It's kind of like a no-brainer. But the kind of sacrosanct approach that they have to food in this show, but then I think it's also maybe something I felt like watching Chef's Table, which I eventually stopped watching because I was like, you know what, they're taking things too seriously. I get it. It's like you're sort of exploring an art form. You're trying to sort of push, see where the frontier goes, how far you can get. But at some point or the other, you're like, you know what? I don't need this pretension. I just need an honest to goodness, like, beef sandwich. That's all I need. And that's, I think, essentially what the problem with the bear was. All we wanted was that Italian sandwich. Instead, we got fine dining bullshit.